All right, Dr. Alexander Rusero, convener State of Africa Lectures Series at the Institute of Pan-African Narratives in Zimbabwe, joins us now via video link as we monitor election results in Mozambique. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's perhaps start by what we are hearing on the ground. Of course, high speculation that Wednesday's polls are expected to bring in and usher in, a younger president into power for the first time since independence in 1975, especially as you consider the likes of the newcomer politician Daniel Chopo. Just your observations then on what's at stake in these elections.
Thank you for having me, and greetings from Mutare, Zimbabwe. It's very unfortunate that already inflammatory statements are being passed with regards to certain incumbents, protagonists who are already saying they are not going to accept anything other than their victory, which is kind of misguided given the popularity that Frelimo genuinely has in Mozambique. The liberation movement always pulls certain electoral surprises because probably of experience and certain indebtedness that the people who for most of the time constitute the voters, they have towards their party. So it's exciting that if you look at Chapo, who is 47 years old and on the verge of becoming president, it's a departure from the old guard politics where only veterans of the liberation struggle in Mozambique would ascend that position and automatically assume presidency.
Let's look at then, at that old guard. Of course, President Nyusi is 65. He's, of course, of the Frelimo party, and he will be stepping down after 8 years in office. How would you then characterize his leadership? And also, of course, just given the scandals around him, including the very latest one with the tuna bond.
Yes, that's the scandal that has got a dent, that left a dent on Frelimo's prospects. But skillfully, Chapo has managed to distance himself from the old Frelimo, saying we are new, we are also going to bring in new ideas, new innovative mechanisms to bring Mozambique back on track. Yes, President Nyusi could be youthful, but he belongs to that generation of nationalists who fought in the liberation struggle. Fronted by Frelimo, then the liberation movement. So it's different from the likes of Chapo, who were born slightly after Mozambique's attainment of independence. So that alone is a sigh of relief to a liberation movement. And all over the 6 liberation movements in Southern Africa, Mozambique could actually be the first to have that kind of transition from the first generation of nationalists to the post-war candidates in the party assuming power. If you look at dynamics in ANC, they are still vexed by the liberation dynamics. ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, SWAPO in Namibia, MPLA in Angola, as well as Chama Pinduzi in Tanzania. So I'm very sure Chapo stands a chance to win based on that marked departure alone, because that's what people for most of the time look at. They also want generational renewal, which is fused with the erstwhile nationalist politics.
I'm keen also, to know and to understand from you how the other candidates have addressed issues that are top of mind to Mozambicans. You mentioned, of course, Chapo a lot, but there's 3 others. that we've seen, including the independent candidate, just given the fact that there's so many things going on in that country, including, of course, the ongoing armed conflict, being waged by ISIL in Cabo Delgado province, and of course the job creation and also the economic issues too. Just who do you think came out very strongly there, just touching on what Mozambicans really want to hear?
Thank you. So if you look at Osufu Momade as well as Venâncio Mondlane, unfortunately for Venâncio, he is coming as a breakaway from Renamo, the key opposition. But if you look at Renamo now, Renamo of today is kind of weak because of the demobilization, disintegration that took place and the fusion of a bigger chunk of Renamo into Frelimo. So the message of the current opposition leaders with regards to addressing unemployment, with regards to addressing issues of inequality, climate change, as well as the current ongoing conflict in the north in form of Cabo Delgado. Their messages are resonating on the same, but I think it's Chapo who surprised them by saying, no, we will engage in a dialogue, in talks. Others are saying, no, that we have to deploy forcibly. We are not doing enough in as much as deployment is concerned. And if you look at Mondlane's message, he's saying, no, we might blame the issue of Cabo Delgado to terrorism, etc., but it also denotes with the miseries that the youths are facing on a daily basis, hence becoming vulnerable to be easily conscripted into terrorist organizations such as the ones that are operating in Mozambique. So the messages by the four protagonists, they are kind of interestingly the same, but the methodology, the approach on how they are going to deal with them, it's the one that differs. So they kind of resonate, the four candidates, in terms of what are the challenges, prevailing challenges currently affecting Mozambique. But the methodological approaches with regards to the how part on how they are going to resolve them, it's the one that differs. So you have the incumbents who will benefit from incumbency by way of inheriting what Nyusi did, and say, look, we have done A, B, C, D. Then you have the two protagonists who more or less have the same message, but one is a splinter and also now commanding a coalition of about 9 political parties who entered as a coalition in this election, but more or less are all disgruntled estual Renamo establishments. Then you have the independent Latero Simango. I would say they are the same. It's the methodological techniques in dealing them which differ, with obviously the incumbents benefiting much from that kind of framing because at least they've managed to diffuse the conflict.
Yeah, Dr. Rusero, I would imagine that will all then culminate in what we are expected to see starting to trickle in today and maybe even in a few days' time. And just on that, I mean, we are expecting preliminary results, which are expected, of course, to be declared today, unfolding as we expect the official results just over 2 weeks after the poll. How do you then see all of this panning out, especially when we are in fact reporting today that Mozambique's independent presidential candidate Mondlane in fact saying that allegedly saying that he will call for a nationwide strike if the ruling party Frelimo claims victory in the presidential election. How do you then see those preliminary results coming out, and how should they be treated?
I think it's an early warning sign. Already you have a candidate who is preempting results, which is kind of politically unwise at this stage, because if you consented to participate in an election, at least you should allow all the due processes. So I would say his utterance is already a confirmation of who is going to win. which win they are already saying it's disputed, it's contested. But it is important at this stage to wait for all the initial processes, including also the SADC Observer Election Mission in Mozambique report, as well as the African Union and other like-minded organizations who were observing these elections. The good thing is they have voted in peace. They haven't been minimum levels of violence related to elections. And if Mozambique boils, the whole of the region will actually catch the heat. So we just wish the Mozambicans to conclude their plebiscite in peace.
Dr. Rusero, thank you so much for your analysis. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. All right, that was Dr. Alexander Rusero, convener State of Africa Lecturer Series at the Institute of Pan-African Narratives in Zimbabwe, as we, of course, monitor those election results coming out of Mozambique. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back straight after this. Stay with us.